already. My name is Shabazz. I'm a student at Nazareth College in Rochester, New York. I went to TC3 for a couple years ago, before I transferred. I'm just running through this introduction real quick, because I want to tell you something a little different than I told them earlier. It's a different group here. I was born and raised on the south side of Chicago in 1975, which is 200 years ago for a lot of students, but it's not that long ago for some of us. Grew up normal, just like every other kid in Chicago. Didn't have a lot of problems, had a good family, big family, 100 and some odd cousins, literally 100 and something cousins. My mother has 9 brothers and sisters, working class family. Didn't grow up with my father, didn't grow up with no serious issues. Just a normal, regular, everyday upbringing. But as a kid, I was, as a young person, I was a knucklehead kind of. I didn't really do anything on purpose. Everything that I did was an accident. Everything. And so even if it came out good, I never did anything on purpose. Life was, what do they say about the seat of my pants? I fell into every situation that I got into as a young person. And I'll run through these little stories real quick and get to the good part. So at about 13 years old, I was in 8th grade, and I accidentally graduated and went to high school. It was a complete accident. I wasn't good in math, as Sophia knows, Marilyn knows. I wasn't good in math. I was really good in reading and writing. I could really write and read, probably better than even my teachers knew. But somehow, I slipped and fell into high school. It was a complete accident. We had to learn the 50 states and stand in front of a group, bigger than this group actually, and recite the 50 states, and also what was the preamble to the Constitution. Somehow I passed that. I don't know how, but I did. And I went to a school called Chicago Vocational High School, giant school, almost 2,000 kids on the south side of Chicago. It used to be a factory during World War II. They used to make munitions there. So, tremendous school, maybe a few blocks long one way and a few blocks, shaped like a V, and a few blocks long this way. And I fell into this school anonymously in a different neighborhood than the one that I grew up in. So the neighborhood that I grew up in was around 71st Street in Chicago. This school is on 87th Street. Different neighborhood, different demographic, not race, but gang demographic. And I was uncomfortable going to this school. I'm changing it up a little bit. I was uncomfortable going to this school, but I went anyway. And when I got into the classroom, such a big school, the class was packed, 40 plus kids in each class. You had people in the classrooms getting their hair braided, fights in the cafeteria, straight riots happening in the I almost said mess hall, but we'll get to that later. Fights in the cafeteria, food fights. It was just a crazy environment. And I just didn't fit in. Wasn't a bad kid, a bully or nothing like that, but I also wasn't like the pushover. I fit somewhere in the middle. Anybody know that space in between? I was friends with some of these guys, and I was friends with some of those guys. And it got to a point where I would go to school, it's freshman year, mind you, never made it past the freshman year. I would go to class, and they would give me these social studies books, and I would read the entire book within the first 2 or 3 weeks of the class. And then the teacher would start teaching, and then I'd fall asleep on it. The delivery just wasn't reaching me. It didn't touch me. But the material was interesting. I love social studies. I'm a sociology major right now, by the way. So I would read these books. It was really interesting, but the presentation was horrible. I couldn't get into it at all. It was terrible. It sucked, as they would say these days. It was terrible. So after a while, I kind of figured out they're not watching me in the same way that they did in grammar school, or elementary school, as they call it now, I guess. And I started cutting class, and I kind of became a legend. I would cut, they call it cutting today? Mm-hmm. Cutting class? Okay, or playing hooky. I would play hooky for 30 straight days in a row. Me and my friends, we'd go to his house instead of going to school, and we cook and burn up his mother's skillets, And she come home and the house is a mess and he get the brunt of the punishment for it. We jump out the window and run down the alley and just doing nothing, accidentally falling into these situations. And one day, I went to school after missing I don't know how many days in a row. And the teacher, I walked into the classroom and the teacher said, go to the principal's office. They need to see you. Excuse me, I got that wrong. Said, go to room 201. So I go to room 201, and when I walk in, me and a bunch of other students, we walk in, and all of our parents were in that room. You can imagine the feeling. I didn't know my mother was at the school. Nobody knew. So we all walked in like, whoa, what's happening here? And the principal came in, and he said, listen, you're all truant, excessive truancy. And if you miss another day, you're out of here. This is your last chance. Now me, making these mistakes, accidentally falling into situations, the next day, what do you think I did? I skipped class the next day. And I didn't go back to school for probably 5 more days. And when I went to school, I went to class, I walked in, I sat down, the teacher looked at me, saw my face, okay, and she taught her class. At the end of the class, she said, you, go to the principal's office. And I walked down to the principal's office, and I got in front of his door, and I looked in, and I saw him sitting there. What do you think I did?
Left.
I walked away. Just accidentally walked away. This is my 15-year-old voice saying that. It's an accident. It's a mistake. I walked away and effectively dropped out of school at that moment. So it was only a matter of time before my mother found out. There were no cell phones then. We didn't even have a house phone at the time, so they would send letters by mail, and I would just beat the mailman. And eventually, I got caught. My brother might have got the mail and gave it to her or something, but I got caught. And my mother gave me the speech, you don't go to work, you don't go to school, you're just not gonna lay up in this house, you're gonna do something. Particularly school. So one day, here I am accidentally walking down the street with my friends, and I see a sign that says, earn while you learn, right? I said, earn means make money, right? Let's go see what they're talking about. So I go in, and it was Job Corps. Anybody know what Job Corps is? I think it was the Department of Labor had a program called Job Corps. I don't know when it came out, 60s or something, 50s. No, part of the New Deal, I think. I don't know, this is not an election. So I walked in, I filled out the paperwork, gave me a form, said you gotta take this to your mother or your guardian and have them sign it, and then you can go. You're eligible. So me and a few of my friends signed up, and I went home and I didn't take it to my mother right away. I kind of tucked it. I put it somewhere. I really didn't want to do the school thing again, really. Didn't even really want to earn. I just wanted to kind of hang out. So, a little time passed. My mother's on my back. She's riding me. So I joined a program called Probation Challenge, accidentally. Walking down the street with my friends and saw a sign for a program for GEDs, a GED program at a school called Olive Harvey at Chicago's Community College. Probation Challenge was a program that was for returning prisoners. So we don't know anything about that. So we just go in and sign up accidentally. Walked in, signed up for the program, get our GEDs, and when we go to class, it's all grown men returning from prison. Big guys, still got the ankle bracelets on, right? This is serious. Like, how in the world do you let me get in here, first of all? But they let us in, we went to class, and honestly, those guys acted as mentors for us. They made us do the work, math included. I remember those classes where they would make us do the work. I remember the teacher's name, just came to me now. I haven't thought about him in almost 25 years. Mr. Phillips. Just came to mind just now. And we would go to class. These guys were holding us accountable. And I didn't want to be held accountable. I wanted to be free. So what do you think I did? Dropped out. I walked out. So my mother got on my back again. At this point, my mother started telling other people in the family about my behavior. Right? So now I'm feeling a little embarrassed because I'm not in school or anything like that. I'm just kind of messing around all day. And finally, I handed the Job Corps paperwork just to get off my back. So I accidentally gave her the paperwork. And she purposely signed it and made me go turn it in. And I turned it in. The next thing you know, me and two of my friends fell into Job Corps, accidentally, of course. So we fall into Job Corps. Now I'm in Kentucky. Never been out of Chicago really before, except in Lansing, Michigan. Now I'm in Morganfield, Kentucky, Earl C. Clemens Job Corps Center. And it was very structured. There was cornfields everywhere around this entire place. There was nowhere to walk away. I can't run from this. I'm stuck here. So I had a good mentor by the name of Richard Allen. We're friends on Facebook to this day. I'll never forget him. Kind of credit him for saving my life. Helped me start thinking in the direction. He pointed me in the direction towards manhood. He wasn't around me long enough for me to get there yet, because I bumped my head a few more times before I got there. But Mr. Allen was my resident advisor, and he stayed on my butt. And I joined the drill team. He was the leader of that group, and everything was going good. I took welding. I passed it. I took home health aid as another one. I passed that, and I kept going, and it was time for graduation. And one day I was walking down the street with this girl. It was my girlfriend at the time. I was walking down the street, because it's like a campus. We're walking down the street. It's graduation day. Not my graduation. Mine was next. But it was a bunch of my friends were leaving. And we're walking, and I see a recruiter, an Army recruiter. And I accidentally asked him, hey, how much money y'all be making in the Army? And like any good Army recruiter, he stuck his hand in his pocket. He put out a wad of money. He put out a wad of money. He said, you make a lot of money in the Army. A lot. What do you think I did? I accidentally went to the Army. The next thing you know, I'm shooting an M16 down the range, getting hollered at by drill sergeants, and I'm a soldier. All right? Fell into it. None of this stuff is deliberate. You notice a pattern here? It's all accidents. Like, none of it is like, you know what, I think I'm going to go to the Army because, no. I ran into a recruiter, and he did like this, and I died right in that direction. Everything happened that way. So I went to the Army, picked up some good skills, a lot of habits that I still carry to this day, a lot of disciplines I picked up that I still have to this day. And towards the end of my stint in the Army, my brother was a union organizer in Chicago, and he started telling me about these jobs. He had a maintenance position coming open. I think it was a good paying job for the time. And he said, listen, if you come back now, I can get this job for you. And I'm like, what's now? He said, don't start for, I think it was a few months later, it was supposed to start. So when they came to me to re-enlist, I told them, no way. I'm going to accidentally fall into this job that's going to take me back to Chicago where I want to be. So I leave at the end of my enlistment period ended. I get on the airplane, headed back to Chicago. This is where it gets kind of crazy. The airplane stops in Atlanta, right? I can remember this stop because I went to the ATM machine and I put my card in just to see if they deposited my last check, and they did. And I remember it was a few thousand dollars. I may have $3,000 or $4,000 in the bank, and that was a lot of money to me, right? It's a huge amount of money. Rich. So I check my account, the money's there, feel good. I call my cousin who lives in Atlanta. And we talked for a while, and I said, guess what? I'm at the airport. He said, you should hang out for a couple of days. Your brother is here, my other brother, I got 4 brothers. Your brother's here, you might as well come kick it for a couple of days. Like, oh no, man, going back to Chicago. And he talked to me a little bit longer than what do you think I did? I accidentally moved to Atlanta. Now I'm living in Atlanta. And I wasn't living there yet, but I'm still in the airport. I hadn't left the airport yet, man. And I saw a guy walking back and forth while I was actually waiting on my cousin to come pick me up from the airport. And the guy was walking past pulling a freezer cart. And he went past 6 or 7 times. And I asked him the same thing I asked the recruiter. Hey, how much money you making doing that? He's like, oh, this is like 11. No, he said $12 an hour, go all the way up to 20. Like 20? Yeah. And he kept going. And he went by a couple more times. And when he came back one more time, he had a card. And he said, here, take this card. Right? I took the card from him. Didn't think nothing of it, put it in my pocket. My cousin never showed up. Ended up getting in a cab. I remember the song. I'm going to talk about this too, these moments. A song, Outkast, Elevators. You might know Outkast? Y'all better know Outkast. Okay. Elevators, it just came, a song about elevators just came out. And the cab driver was listening to Outkast. And I was like, is that on the radio? I remember this moment. So is that on the radio? He's like, yeah. Like, what? They play Outkast on the radio? It's Atlanta, they're from Atlanta. So I go to his house. We hang out. I'm going to speed it up a little bit. We hang out a little bit. And I give him the card the next morning, early in the morning. And I say, I saw this guy working at the airport. And he gave me this card. He was pulling these carts, and he said they made good money doing it. He said, let me see it. I gave it to him when he looked at it. He said, man, that's Biggie Smalls. I know him. Biggie Smalls, not the real Biggie Smalls, the rapper. He called him Biggie Smalls, a real big guy. And he said, I know him. He owns a temp agency. I'll take you over there to see him. So we went to see Biggie Smalls, and he said, look, this is my cousin. He just got out the Army. He was looking at the job at the airport. Biggie Smalls was like, oh, you just got out the Army? You hired if you want it. What you think I did? I accidentally took the job. So I get the job that day. I start working that night. The airport. I think I told you about the airport. So I accidentally got that job. And actually my cousin got the job too. We were working together. And I ended up getting a couple more jobs accidentally. I worked at Burger King part-time. I was just stacking checks, just making money. And about 9 months later, after working at the airport for 9 months, I ended up getting a call from my brother. The job in Chicago was ready. So what do you think I did? All right, airport, it's been nice. Got this job in Chicago, and then I accidentally went back to Chicago, right? No, you see this thing? I'm gonna stop saying accidentally, because y'all get it. I was stumbling through life. So I go back to Chicago, and I get the job in the building. That was great. Good money. I'm back in Chicago. I'm fly, young. Girls like me, making a little money. Everything's cool, right? Get laid off from work, right? That saying, God looks out for fools and babies. Y'all ever heard that before? God looks out for babies and fools. Well, I felt like God wasn't looking out for me at that moment, because there was nothing to accidentally fall into after that. I was just broke. And then before you know it, landlord knocking on the door. Phone company knocking on the door. Real life started happening. Bills piling up on me. And I don't know how to get out of it, right? I don't know how to get out. This is my first time running into a roadblock as an adult. And I got a friend, old friend that came to me. I'll never forget this moment either. It's another moment that I kept with me. He shook my hand. That's how he gave it to me. He shook my hand, and when he shook my hand, he let it go. He put some cocaine in my hand. There was a bag of cocaine about that big. I don't even know how much it weighed. I couldn't say if it was a gram or 20 grams, I don't know. But he put it in my hand, and he said, you can make some money to pay your bills. In his mind and in my mind, he was looking out for me. Like, I know you're struggling, I'm gonna help you out. Mind you, drugs is an industry. Cities like Chicago used to have steel mills, used to have factory jobs. A process, it's not gonna be a lecture, I promise. There's a process called deindustrialization, where jobs started being taken out of these communities, and they were replaced with cocaine. Plain and simple. So it was that was a job in my mind. Actually, we call cocaine work. You got some work? That means you got the ability to make some money. So I took it, and me and my friend, I wasn't a dope dealer. I didn't know what to do with that cocaine. I knew how to sell it, sells itself, but I didn't know what to do, really what to do with it. So I went and got with a good friend of mine, and he did know what to do with it. And said, hey man, look, and I showed it to him. Got this cocaine, man, I need to make some money. He said, okay, I'll help you. You ain't even gotta give me nothing. Because I looked out, I was a nice guy, I wasn't a bad guy. I used to look out for people, so people would look out for me. So-called look out for me with the cocaine thing. Really, it was another accident. So he came to me, and we both had this idea. We'll take this cocaine to Wisconsin, and we'll make money in Wisconsin, and then we'll come back to Chicago, and they'll never know what happened. So we're gonna go across state lines with some drugs. We're gonna come back, and by then, my union will have found me another job. I catch up on bills, everything will be straight. Or so I thought. So I go to Wisconsin, accidentally. This is where it gets really crazy. I get to Wisconsin, a friend of a friend tells him, you notice that there are no security guards in the stores up here? And I noticed this. Now, also no security guards in the banks up here. Wow. And somebody said, think we can rob a bank? What? Think we can rob a bank? What do you think I did?
Oh no.
Rob the bank.
What do you think I did?
Ski mask on.
Huh?
Ski masks on.
The ski mask came out. Gotta go rob a bank. Now, my young mind at the time, now see, this is the importance of holding these moments. Hold on to these moments. Very important to hold on to moments. Because when I reflect on that moment in time, in my 40s, if you walked up to me right now and said, hey, maybe rob a bank, what you think gonna happen? Man, you better get out of my face. You don't even need to be speaking to me right now. Real talk. You need to go find you some business. But at the time, I was almost suicidal. I called my mentality at the time was suicidal because pride wouldn't let me ask for help. Because I could have very easily went to one of my aunts or somebody in my family and said, hey man, I'm on hard times. And people would have looked out for me. But pride, I couldn't do it. Couldn't bring myself to say, I need help. I'm a man. All that old stuff. So, we robbed the bank, and immediately got caught. Same day. Same day. And that was the beginning. Now, this is where my story actually begins. All that was filler. Y'all bored yet? Y'all bored? Y'all sleepy? Okay. It's Friday night. I don't want you to feel like you're at a lecture. So, this is where my life begins. I always say this is when I was born. So, they catch me. Of course I'm going to prison. They put me in jail. I had no illusions about it. I called my aunt's house. It's the only number I could remember. And her late husband answered the phone. And he said, are you being recorded right now? He wanted to ask a question. He said, are you being recorded? I said, yeah. And then he said, what did they say you did? And I didn't want to say it because I didn't want them to feel the need to do anything for me. So I said, yeah, they say they caught me with a gun. I didn't even say what it was. I didn't call my mother. I didn't call anybody. That pride was still intact, heavy, you know. So I didn't call anybody. Didn't ask for no help. Didn't say put money on my books. I said, I got to man up. I did it. So whatever happens, happens. I was facing 108 years. 108 years. Now, this is lecture stuff. I ain't gonna even go down the road. But there was a guy, a white guy in the cell next to me, committed the same crime twice. You know how much time he was facing? 42 years. But I was facing 108. And they were talking about, oh, we're gonna give you a deal for 40 years. They gave me 40 years, you wouldn't be talking to me right now. I wouldn't be here right now. Still be gone. For accidentally, I think this is my 22-year-old voice, accidentally robbing a bank. Because we do that when we're young. I did. It's a mistake. It was an accident. Me today, it wasn't an accident. There were some structures in place that created that. I don't want to sound like a selection yet. What's another term for agency? That behavior was born out of a circumstance. And now I understand the bigger picture that created that mentality that led to me saying, yeah, let's do it. I understand that better now than I did then. So I go to court. The judge sentences me to 12 years. He sentenced me to 12 years. Didn't give me all of them. He gave me 20 years probation, 12 and 20. So I go to prison. Didn't bat an eyelash. I got to do it. So right away, this is where the important part of the story, I didn't tell to the group earlier. When I was in the county jail, I had a friend who was a trustee, and they had a little room, and it was filled with National Geographic magazines. And when I say filled, I mean from the floor to the ceiling, literally. And in the crate with the books that they give to the prisoners, that was just nonsense. I'm not going to even say the name of this book. It's young people here. Sexual material in novel form that they think will entertain the prisoners and keep them docile. farmer stuff. You know what I'm talking about. So, maybe, I'm sorry, I didn't put you out there. But the truth is that these books were in the normal crate. And one day, my friend was coming past, and he gave me a sandwich through the bars, and he gave me 2 National Geographics. And that was the beginning of my studying and reading and trying to figure things out. I'll say his name. His name was Mac L. We call him Mac L. Love that dude. Love him. I love Mac L. But he handed me those books, those National Geographics, and I tore through them. Like, oh, that's pretty cool. I don't remember what they were about. But it was stuff that I wanted to know about. I was interested in that. I said, hey, is any more of these books over there? Like, man, that's 1,000 of them books. So you like that stuff? Like, it's okay. Bring me some more. Brought me 2 or 3 more. He brought me 5. Then he got me a job as a trustee, and I had full access to the whole room. And I started tearing through these books, and I started writing stuff down, taking little notes and stuff like that, stuff that professors make us do now. I was doing it on my own, like studying and learning about the world around me. And it started getting good to me. Then I got sentenced, and I got shipped away to prison. Right? Y'all sleepy yet? So I get to prison. First thing I do, I hit the library. You only go to the library once a week at this point. I go in, I walk into the library, I see all the books on the shelf, and say, give me the biggest book on the shelf, because I need it to last a week. Give me that big book right there. Just so happened that big book was Alex Haley Roots. He gave me that big book. So I took it to the cell, and you'll be surprised how much you can read when you're forced to sit still. Within a matter of 24 hours, I was halfway done with that book. Second day, it was done. I had a whole week to wait to go again. So what did I do? I read it again. And I'm like, wow, I didn't know Kunta Kinte was a Muslim. I didn't know Kunta Kinte was here. I didn't know this was this. I didn't know that was that. Wow. And I go again. I said, hey, give me another book kind of like this one. And he didn't know. He just gave me another book. I don't remember what it was, but I read that. And that started the process of reading. And then I met people. I'm not unique as far as intelligence. There are people who taught me stuff that are still there, lifers and stuff like that, that will pull my coat and say, hey, brother, read this book right here. And I read it, then we have a conversation and debate, and they destroy me in the debate. Then I start writing, and there's another guy, I'm going to say his name, Abdul Bayat. I would write an essay, terrible. I couldn't write, I just write an essay, and I take it to him, and he read it, and he pick it to pieces. This is terrible. He say it like that too. No heart for a young guy. This is horrible. What are you doing? This is a comment supposed to go here. This is this way. And it made me mad. So I go back and I write something else and I bring it back. Read that. It's okay. And until it got to the point where he didn't have anything to say really about it. And I felt like I made it. I've arrived. When Abdul Bayat gave me that green light. And he said, you know what? He said, you're different. He said, when you get out of here, don't be messing with any girl that try to mess with you. Never forget he said that to me. It's one of those moments. Don't mess with any girl that want to mess with you. He said, because you a catch. I didn't know what he meant by that at the time. He said, you a catch. What's he talking about? He's an older guy. Catch? What's that mean? And he said, if you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to be special when you get out of here. You're not going to come back here again. You'll be a different type of guy. And Abdullah Bayat, whether he knows it or he's still around. I got to call him, matter of fact. I'm going to be mad at him. I was supposed to call him a while back. But he said, you're going to be something special out there. And you're going to be attractive to a lot of people. They're going to want to be close to you. I'll never forget this moment. We're sitting in the cell. He said, you're going to be attractive if you keep doing what you're doing. He said, because your personality. He said, he said something like, I don't remember exactly, something like when your intelligence catches up to your personality, you're going to be all right. And then he always say something to deflate me, like at the end, so my ego wouldn't get going. He always would bust a bubble. And before I proceed any further, I'm almost there. He asked a question to me one day. I didn't say this with the high school students, but I say it to you. I'll never forget this question. And it's a question that lasted for 2 years, maybe more than 2 years. He asked me, would you marry a prostitute? And I thought about it for a second. I was like, nah, I don't marry no prostitute. I was 23 something years old, 24. Would you marry a prostitute? No, I ain't marrying no prostitute. He said, one day you'll grow up. And he just walked away. And it pissed me off because I am grown. What you talking about, you know? Like, I am grown. About a year later, he came to me again. And he said the same thing. Would you marry a prostitute? He said, no, wait a minute. She's a Christian now. She's not a prostitute no more. I'm a Muslim. I was in the Nation of Islam at the time, too. I thought about it for a second. Nah, I can't do it. He said, you'll grow up one day. Made me mad again. I was pissed, like, I am grown. And probably almost a year later, he asked me the same question again. And this time, I said no again. And he laid into me. What make you so good? Felon, armed robber. What make you so good we don't look down on a woman because of her past? You got a past too. You know, you probably can't even get a job when you get out of here. Laid into me. Hit me in the soul. Like, man, he's telling the truth. Right? It hurt me. But that's a lesson. It was a lesson in that moment. He laid into me heavy. But it made me humble in a lot of ways. I don't even know. I told him this before, I believe, and I don't know if he knows the extent of how that humbled me. To what extent it humbled me and made me a different person. So time passed, and it was time for me to get out. I was a thorn in the side of the Department of Corrections for a while because me and a group of other guys, we would do stuff to buck the system when they would try to, like, I was in a CCA prison. I was sold to a CCA prison by the state of Wisconsin, and they said we're going to take meat off the menu, and they put these vending machines in the cell blocks so they can make money. I remember the chief security said once he makes $1 million, he's going to retire. It was total exploitation. Phone calls, $20-some odd to call home. It was just ridiculous. Just taking advantage of our unfortunate situation. And we would organize and fight that. And they made me do almost the maximum time that I could do. There's no early stuff for me. No. Because I used to say things, the ego was still kind of there. I was young still, I was still fighting it. But it was necessary in some cases. Because if your self-esteem, before I committed that crime, my self-esteem was down here. To break even, just to break even, you got to think real high of yourself. Just to break even, right? So the egotistical guy in prison out here, he's just barely breaking even, right? So I would tell guards things like, I can write better than all of you, right? You're a failure because you're a prison guard. You didn't want to be that when you were a kid. You probably wanted to be a doctor or something. But you're in here with me 8 hours a day. Let's add that up and see how many hours a year, how many days a year you spend in prison with me, the degenerate, right? And it would hit them. Yeah, I did want to be a teacher or something. You know, they would be pissed, and they know I can write better than them. So if you do that to me, guess what I'm going to write? I'm not just going to tell your boss. I might write the media, CC the news lady, and tell her how you sprayed mace on that guy in segregation and introduce them to him. Or even further, maybe I'll send a letter to your church. It's a small town, maybe one church. Maybe I'll send a letter to your church and let them know how you're behaving in here. Maybe they can advocate for me, right? And when they hear it backs them up off me. I wasn't doing it to hurt them. I did that for my own self-preservation. And as time went on, I continued to study in a way I can't even. One day I cried. Tears came out my eyes one day, just after release, 10 years later. I was just thinking about how many books I read when I was in prison. And just the thought brought tears to my eyes. How much I read. I couldn't believe how much I read. And under the conditions that I read, there were points where it was darkness. There was a sliver of light, and I would read to that light. Like whole books. And I'm not talking about poop butt books. I'm talking about poop butt is like slang for weak, not just weak anything books. I'm talking about Will Durant, History of Civilization. All the volumes. books that they don't even read in academia anymore. I was reading those books, giving myself headaches, giving myself bad eyes, doing this. And I reflected on those moments, and it was just like overwhelming. I can't believe I did that. And doing that, it changed my life. There was a moment when I was in segregation. I got into a conversation with a guard, which is not hard. A confrontation is not you hitting a guard. A confrontation is you not moving as quickly as they would like you to move. And then you respond, I was moving. It's like disrespect and disobeying a direct order. 2 Ds. You're going to the hole for 30 days. That's how it works. So I go to segregation. This was an intake. And a guy came to the door, and he kicked the Quran under the door. I'll never forget him. His name was Tip. He kicked the Quran under the door. He said, God sent that to you. So I picked it up, and I read it. It didn't make sense. You know, it was it's short narrative. If anybody ever read any of the Quran and the Bible, too. The Bible is written in long narrative. The Quran is written in short narrative. So it's a little choppy if you're used to reading long narrative. So I started reading. It didn't make sense. So I put it down. I didn't have anything else to read, so I started reading again. And then I prayed. And I was an atheist. Or so I called myself an atheist at the time. I prayed, and I said, if there is a God, I'm not going to ask you to let me out of here. I just want to know stuff. This is literally what I said. I just want to know things. And I believe that my prayers were answered. Because I started to learn things, started to know things. And it saved my life. Now, after prison, once I was released, first place I went downtown Madison, Wisconsin. And I remember looking at the state building, the what do you call it? The carvings around the edge. Apollo and the Greek gods and everything were carved. And I remember looking at that, and the thought that came to mind was, there's a civilization that was built on top of me. There's a whole civilization that's on top of me. And how do I get a position of comfort? How do I wiggle free from this? How do I get any type of comfort in it? I know this guy right here is not going to come to me and say, hey, you want to rob a bank? That's not happening again. We did that. We did that. It's got to be another way. So I used what I knew. I go to the Urban League. No, that wasn't I went to an organization, and I remember I walked in, and they tried to give me some bus tickets. Right? You know how a lot of agencies do that. They give people bus tickets. They give people money or whatever. I went in and they tried to give me bus tickets. And I said, no, actually, I don't want those. I want to see your annual report. And they were like, annual report? Well, see, how does he even know what that is? Hold on for a second. They went in the back, and the director came out and said, oh, you wanted to see our annual report? That scares people in nonprofits when you do that. So I walked in, and I said, I want to see an annual report. Can I get a copy? And he's like, why? I just wanted to give it a once over and see what's going on in the community. I'm new here. Just want to check it out. And he reluctantly gave it to me. And I looked at their demographics, and I looked at where they're spending their money. And I said, wow, you spend a lot of money on bus tickets in here. You think that's all we do is ride the bus every day? Like, there's some other things that we need. Can we have a conversation about it? Sure. I go back. Now I meet this guy. He knows me now. He knows me. I'm here. In his mind, this guy is here. Who he is and who he represents, I don't know. But he's here. I go to the Urban League. I take a job as an assistant in a computer lab. Minimum wage, 4 hours a day, 4 days a week. Minimum wage, 4 days a week. That's nothing, right? That's pennies. But what I would do, I would go into the Urban League, and I would go in that basement in that computer lab, about 16 computers down there. It was empty, just a couple of guys looking at NAKED, WMEN. I don't know why I spelled that, because she can spell probably. But they were looking at inappropriate things, and I approached, and I said, hey man, you know what, you could do something different with the computer. Like, it's a lot of stuff you can do with this thing, like a resume, or learn how to use Excel, or whatever. And show you how long ago this was. 3.5 floppy disks was still around. So I got 3.5 floppy disks for each one of the guys, and put their name on it, and gave it to them. This mine? Yeah, it belongs to you. Ownership. Feels good when you don't have anything. I had to own something. Even if it's you, right? My woman, my man, that's something. I gotta have something. This is mine, so I give them that. It's a little piece, nothing. But we started learning how to use Excel. Started writing, learning to type. Mavis Beacon. Anybody remember Mavis Beacon? It's a typing program. You learn to type? Learn to type. They started typing, getting better and better. Then I would go to the bagel place and get day-old bagels and bring them. And with my little minimum wage, buy a little box of coffee. And I had coffee for them. Most of them were homeless. They would come in and they say, hey, is the dude with the little kufi on here today? And they say, no, he's not here. And they turn around and walk out. And they only come when I'm there. They noticed upstairs. And one day, another man who had an impact on me, Brian Benford, he's an alderman, and was an alderman at the time. He was running for office, and he was the head of the Fatherhood Responsibility Program. He came to me and asked if I would co-facilitate one of his groups. I did it a couple times when he was off work, and it turned into a thing. Whenever he was off, I would facilitate. The guys loved it. They went to him and they would say, when is he coming back? I want to see this guy again. He's cool, man. He looked out for me. He can relate to us. Brian came to me and said, hey, man, check this out. I'm finna run for office again. You should take that job. And I said, I'm gonna take that job. So I applied, and this was what he was talking about earlier. I applied for the position. I didn't have a degree. It required a bachelor's degree, at least. Applied anyway. All I had was a School of Hard Knocks degree. So I go in, panel interview. I sit down in front of them, and they start talking about diversity. They start talking about race. They start talking about economics, all stuff I know about. Because I've been in them books in that darkness. I'm ready. I'm like Rocky when he's hitting with that beef. I wasn't in a professional gym, but I was hardened intellectually. I was ready. And they asked a question regarding dealing with poverty. I can't remember exactly. Something like if people from different races and come into the Urban League looking for assistance, what method would you use to approach these different people? And I said, it depends on if you, as a franchise, use the Du Bois approach or the Booker T. Washington approach. They froze. We'll take a little break for a second. We'll be right back. They all left. They came back. Okay, can you explain, a little bit more about that? And then I got to the dry erase board and I explained Du Bois. I explained Washington. I explained how the Urban League discovered government money back in the 60s. And they didn't even know this about their own agency. And when I walked out, the president came behind me. He said, hey, if you want this job, you can have it. Like, he gave me the job. Like, please take it. Because it's a saying we used to say, superior knowledge demands submission from inferior knowledge. There's things that they didn't know, so they had to submit. I have to submit myself to my professor when Sophia says, I'm not going to even repeat it, anything mathematical, I have to submit myself to her knowledge. She knows something that I don't know. So I have to submit myself to it and take it in. He's smiling, you must have had math class. So I took the position, and then that led to other positions. I was on the board of directors at an agency called Madison Area Urban Ministries for several years. I was an employee there. After being on the board for maybe five years or so, I took a position there as a case manager, working with returned prisoners, youth offenders, and that started this thing with me in academia. I got an invite from a sociology professor at the University of Wisconsin. He said, can you come talk to my class? I heard you talking to these high school students and these returned prisoners and stuff in this group, Voices Beyond Bars. You're the chairperson, president or something, right? Again, I'm one of the chair people, yeah. So, you think you could come talk to my class? Big class, bigger than this. Full to the brim. He was from Germany, I'll never forget. That was one of those moments I kept. And I mentioned, full class, same type of conversation we're having now. Told him my story, and we talked a little bit. It was more of a lecture, more about sociological concepts and stuff like that after. But at the end, nobody got up and moved. Everybody stayed. The buzzer went off, it was time to go, nobody moved. Maybe 300 people, nobody moved. And they had question after question after question after question. And then when people had to go, they left, maybe 60 people moved forward, and they stayed an additional hour and a half. And he said, I never saw anything like that before. I can't get students to do that. He said, you should go back to school and become a teacher. I said, man, you crazy. I gotta make money, man. I can't just go back to school. I got something. I'm 18. Grown man. Like, you know the path that I just took to get to where I'm standing now? They just drop everything and go back to school. And this wasn't the same type of accident. I didn't accidentally go to school. I thought it out. Man, how much money you be making? All right? But this time, I thought it out. It was a conscious decision. It was deliberate. Maybe I could go back to school. Maybe I could do that. So he invited me every semester. I would go to his class, then I would go to different classes and teach different classes, sections in sociology, then social work. I did a couple classes in social work, and it just turned into a thing. Community college, I would go there, and then I thought about it for a couple of years, and then I finally took the dive and I went back to school. And I was killing it, like I thought. Like, it's actually almost like high school in a way, where I read it, and then it's kind of like, except for math. Because I didn't study any math when I was in prison, I can tell you that now. Nothing, an add or subtract, nothing. So, but when it came to everything else, first couple weeks, I was in it. Read the books, I'm done. And then I just listened to the presentation from that point forward. But the difference is, you got some good professors. The presentation is pretty good. So I could get additional stuff. And then we have conversations about it after. And it turned into a thing. And it moved me even closer. And it got me to where I am today, which is not, and again, I still have that same prayer. I just want to know. I don't want to be rich. I want to know things. I just joked. I said from rags to slightly better rags. Not a rags to riches story. Rags to slightly better rags. But as long as I know, if I'm aware of who I am and where I'm standing, that's the most important thing to me. Knowing who I am and how I fit into this whole thing. Like I was looking at that thing. How I fit into this situation. I can no longer fall through life. It has to be deliberate. I have to be in control of it. I have to make decisions. Not he pulled out $1 and I jump at the dollar. It has to be. Now back to, and lastly, before I close I'll let you ask me questions. Because I don't believe that you should sit in front of a guy who has been to prison. If you're a college student, and especially if you're in associate anything, and a guy says, you know what, when I was your age, I robbed a bank. And you don't have a single question for him. It wouldn't make any sense. I don't think. There are some questions like, what was you thinking? I would have a million questions. But those moments, it's important to capture moments and hold on to them so that you can reflect on them. So if I could look at myself, I wish I was writing when I was 19, 20, so I can look back on it and say, wow, that's where I was then? That's crazy. And guess what can happen? I can show that to you. And say, do you know how crazy I was thinking when I was 20? And you might say, I think like that now. And you can say, well, okay, I need to change, right? Because all those moments that I keep are beneficial for other people at this point. Everything, the good and the bad. Everything from, and like I say, the robbery part is not the peak of this story. This story peaks in the dark cell. This is where it gets important. In that dark cell, reading those books, engaging with people. I want to name some people. Rafiki, Ajala. These are people I learned from. Jamil, Jalil. I remember their names and their faces. Yasser, I still talk to these people every day. Yasser, I fight with him every morning on the phone. Right now. I talk to him driving here. We battle back and forth over ideas. And we're still learning, still in that process. Now, before I close, I think this is a good idea to start journaling. A lot of guys, we used to think, a diary? That's some girl stuff, man. I don't want to keep in a diary. Keep a journal. Keep these moments so you can look back on them and use them again. Even if it's it's just a sentence. It's a good day today. Got up at 6, ate me a grapefruit, looked out the window for 3 minutes, hit snooze, got up again. It was a great day. Maybe I can look back at that when I'm having a bad day and repeat that process and take myself back to that place. Or, bad day, having a terrible time. This is happening, that is happening. Maybe I can look back at that and not take that journey again. That's the benefit of writing. What's her name? Anne Frank. What if she didn't write anything? That's just one example. But there's thousands of examples of people that decided to write their experiences, and they benefit not just them, but it benefits us today because we can look back on their stories. And that's pretty much it. And if you have any questions, I'm sure you got some questions. He got some questions.
I definitely do.
So we'll go ahead and let you ask questions. We'll get a few questions in.
Like out loud?
Yeah, go ahead.
So in your mind.
Okay. So the part where he said the Quran under your door, you asked God to help you to know. What are some of the things that he exposed you to?
Well, I can tell you how that started.
Yeah.
I called myself an atheist at the time. And one day I went into the kitchen to eat. And I remember at the prison, it was in the basement. Went down in the basement. And there was a guy, he took his shoes off when he started eating. And I was like, what's he doing? And the guy next to me said, oh, he's a Muslim or something. That's what he said, he's a Muslim or something. So I went up to this Muslim or something, he happened to be the imam. And I used to debate with him about religion. Debunk God, I'm going to take God from you. And I would do the same things to Christians. I would read the Bible, and I'm going to take God from you. That was my religion. Asking you a question about God that you couldn't answer. That was my religion. And the feeling that I felt when you couldn't answer was my spirituality. Right? Seriously. It was just unwritten spirituality. That's what it was. Just a jerk. Didn't really know anything. Just picking on people, right? Pretty much. Trolling, as they say online. I was trolling. So when he came to me, it was after many conversations with these different religious people. And he slid the Quran under the door, and I didn't ask for anything specific. I didn't say, I want to know about this. I want to know about this world that we live in. This is around the time when I started collecting these moments. I remember the guy next door to me. He was kicking the door. He laid on the floor, and he would just kick the door. Boom, 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 boom. And he would say, dogs. There was a guard named Dogs, D-O-G-S. He would scream, dogs, dogs, dogs. I think he was having a mental break or something. Because if you're in the segregation, you drive you crazy. You really can. If you don't believe it, watch the movie about Reuben Hurricane Carter with Denzel Washington. Anybody seen that? It's called The Hurricane. Denzel played it perfectly. He was sitting in a cell in segregation, and he was crying. And he looked up and he saw himself standing in the cell with him, shadow boxing. And it was the angry part of him was standing there. And he was like, quit acting like a punk. He was like, and then he looked over here and he saw another version of himself. And he told him, leave him alone. And he had a conversation with himself after being in segregation for about 90 days. He can do that to you. And this guy was kicking the door, boom, 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 boom. I kept that moment. I could hear guys playing chess. Play chess, they make the chessboard on the floor, and they just call the numbers out. 32, and they move to that one. They go back and forth. And I said, I want to know, not just about this, but what's on top of this, what's outside of here, and how I got here, who I am, and what am I doing here? And that was the beginning of the journey. This was after Roots. This was after I read Roots. So no specific thing. I just wanted to know stuff. And pretty much that's how I